Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Today, we'll cover unlocking your dark data with the window into your conversations. And I'm excited to learn more about this. I'm even more excited to have two special guests today. We have Andrew Hong, our CEO at Dashbot, and Paul Miller here, Senior Conversational AI Evangelist. I'm Alice, Product Marketing Director at Dashbot. Before we get started, we'd love to hear from you throughout today's session. We're all about conversations after all. So we have our Q&A at the bottom. Please drop your questions in the Q&A. This is live, so please take advantage of the chat here. And after the session, we'll send you the recording and recap. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. Andrew and Paul, can you please share with us a bit of your background and your journey to Dashbot?
Yeah, I can get started. Hey, thanks, Alice. Truly global audience here. It looks like, yeah, my background, lots and lots of twists and turns, but I guess just keeping it a high level, semi-clean is I started out as a software engineer. So I worked at big tech corporations like Nielsen in New York, Oracle in Boston before doing 4 of my own startups back to back. I was lucky enough to exit all of them before joining what founders call the dark side of venture capital, no pun intended. So I joined an early stage seed firm in New York called FFVC for about 4 years. So I was investing in cutting edge technology startups for about 4 years, working with awesome founders, awesome companies, before joining as CEO of Dashbot in 2021 and taking this vision at the time of a chatbot analytics tool and evolving it to something I think we're all excited about today, which is a horizontal data platform to really help businesses unlock this dark data that I know we're going to get into later today. So that's at a high level, my background.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Paul, could you share a bit of your background and your journey to Dashbot on conversational AI?
Yeah, hey, for sure, Alice. Good morning, everybody out there. Good afternoon, in some cases, depending upon where you are. I've been in this space for 7 years trying to solve this problem with technology via conversational AI. And what really gets me excited is being able to share a story through this webinar on why I'm passionate about how Dashbot is trying to solve this problem by understanding your dark data. And so I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more and providing some more insight with y'all as we go through this. And welcome.
Welcome, welcome. We're so excited to learn more. And we'll go ahead and get started with the first question here. I'll share my screen and I'll have it loaded in a sec. All right. First question here is, so the reason why we're here today, what is dark data? Andrew, would you like to get started with that one?
Yeah, definitely. I like to start with a stat that I think surprises most people, definitely surprised me when I first heard of it, which is 90% of the world's data was generated in just the last 2 years alone. And this amount is growing exponentially year over year. And so I think that gives you a glimpse into the exponential nature that we as a global society are generating this data from all these devices. I think what's equally as interesting is that according to the IDC and Gartner, 90% or up to 90% of the data that businesses collect is what's called dark data. So for the most part, this is essentially unstructured conversational or textual data that are just sitting in businesses' data lakes, unable to be leveraged for the rich insights that are actually in there, right? And so, for example, this might be things like call center transcripts, SMS data, emails, documents, so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of rich insights embedded in there. But the challenge is that for most businesses, they don't have access to the tools to analyze the insights embedded within there that they're already sitting on. And so this is part of the challenge we're trying to solve at Dashbot. But yeah, I just wanted to paint context into the exponential nature of data creation and the surprising amount of data or dark data that businesses are sitting on.
Thank you, Andrew. This is a very powerful visual of an iceberg, and 90% also a very powerful number to keep in mind that this is a very important resource because it's untapped. We already have it as a resource. So dark data. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty awesome. Thanks, Andrew. For me, and you'll get to know me throughout this webinar, and I have a different type of a lens. So to me, dark data is really important to understand how to truly unlock understanding your customers and what they're saying. And I think that's really important considering the economy we're in, and each business or enterprise, no matter what industry you're in, is trying to separate themselves, and it's become very competitive to not just get market share, but also to distinguish yourselves from your competition. So it's really, for us, a window into their intent, sentiment, and there's a wealth of information for businesses to glean and understand by unlocking the power of unstructured data, whether that be SMS, voice, et cetera. By better understanding these different conversation flows, you can really better understand and serve your customers. And for enterprises, they just don't get it right and miss a huge opportunity based on my experience, which I'll share later. And more often than not, most enterprises simply just can't analyze the data or make sense of it, or they can't get access to those valuable insights. And so that's what dark data, in my opinion, means.
Thank you both. Yeah, this is super exciting. I can hear how passionate you are about this, so that we can get the word out around this hidden gem, right? So now that we've learned a little bit more about what dark data is, can you tell us a little bit about what we can do with it? I'll share my screen for the next question. What can we unlock with dark data? Paul?
Yeah, so I've tried to solve this problem through the last 7+ years through working for different various NLP providers, most recently being Rasa, which is one of the largest open source platforms on earth. And the first one that comes out and stands out to me when we talk about unlocking dark data is really customer service is a real big one. And when I think about companies today, they're really trying to figure out how to provide a great customer experience. And all they have, and all of them seem to have, some sort of digital transformation initiative where they're trying to do just that. And another key component of that strategy is automation and enhancing the human element. So based on my experience, what I found is there's two really top use cases that stand out to mind that really can benefit from this. It's also a significant challenge, and that's customer support. And that's also the contact center, no matter what industry you're in, that's associated with customer support. And I've had many customers ask me how to unlock insights and make their agents more effective, or find ways to automate more low-level conversations they're having to focus on so they can have more impactful conversations. But a lot of these enterprises, guess what? They still struggle or find this significantly challenging today. What gets me really excited is Dashbot has a unique solution, not a tool, to help companies and enterprises of all industries out there unlock dark data for service leaders by pulling out transcripts to see what topics customers are calling in on and identifying trends, patterns that are useful so they can automate more low-level conversations and help agents have more contextual awareness to stay effective. Dashbot also has the ability to provide insights where service leaders can take the appropriate action to provide better training to their agents, improve retention, reduce churn, and make it easier for agents to really address their customers. And if you think about that, it's really significantly as a positive consequence. If you do get it right, we have this approach, which we'll go into later, called data first, which really provides a better way to what the market is doing to unlock this unstructured data or dark data by giving you insights to improve upon not just the human element, but automation, not just the automation, but if you're a conversational designer, the top of the funnel, which is designing bots. And one example from an industry that stands out to me, based on my experience, that does this is insurance. And, they today look at transcripts to understand what are the top automatable use cases. Some of these might be password resets. And if you think about what I said, an agent's time is super valuable. It's very valuable in how they disperse or interact or engage with that customer, especially if that call has been escalated. And it's really about identifying where they can automate and identifying top emerging trends so you can train your agents on addressing how to solve that problem as quickly as possible. And I think everyone in the audience probably knows very well what happens if you can't solve your customer's problem or provide an awesome experience along that journey, whether it's in the chatbot or from the human side when it's escalated, when the chatbot can't contain that conversation and a human agent has to get involved. And so those are some of the consequences of not understanding some of that unstructured data or dark data where Dashbot can help.
Thank you so much, Paul. So top of mind, customer support is the number one spot where we can think about where we can unlock dark data. So imagine understanding what are the top customer frustration topics that are coming in from those conversations, right? And that can be beneficial for business, of course, for the customer experience side of things, but also empowering your service agents to anticipate what to expect when it comes to addressing those support questions and what's the best way to make the customers happy from where they're at. So thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your insights on customer support. Andrew, is there anything else that you'd like to add around where else can we unlock with dark data in addition to customer support?
Yeah, what Paul said was so well said, right? Totally agree. I would just add on to that there's so many use cases and also cross-departmental use cases that can be unlocked in this data. So, I mean, just to give you one example, let's say you're a business that just launched a new product, right? You actually might want to ingest, for example, internal customer survey data. You also might want to do like scraping of social feeds, like what are customers saying about your new product on blog forums, on Twitter, for example. And you might want to actually take those insights and send it to your marketing team. They might be able to take those insights and do very targeted marketing campaigns. You also might want to take insights from those data sets and send it to your R&D team. That actually might influence new product lines based on those insights from that data. It actually might help inform how to improve the product line you just launched. So there's many other use cases, especially cross-departmental ones that could be unlocked from this data. Just want to add to that, but completely agree with what Paul said and what you said, Alice.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, that's very interesting to think about, right? And it's a different way of thinking, right? It's about understanding who the customer is and truly how we can keep them happy, but using the conversations itself as a source to be able to bring that back to the organization, whether you're a marketing leader so that you can target and personalize those interactions, a service leader to anticipate how to resolve those issues, and also on the product leader side, if you can take that sort of insight and take it back into the product, now that's really cool stuff. Thank you both for answering that question. Now we'll get a little bit deeper in the next question. Now we know a little bit about what dark data is. We talked a little bit about what are the use cases that we can unlock. Now I'd love to ask you, with everything that we've been hearing about the latest in large language models, such as GPT-3, what does automation have to do with dark data? Andrew?
Yeah, I could take this one. I think at this point, we've all heard about ChatGPT, right? I think what's really amazing and exciting for all of us right here in the webinar here is that I think it's spurred our imagination of the future applications and implications of what this technology can do for us as a society for our day-to-day lives. I would say though, honestly, for enterprise grade use cases today, something like ChatGPT, I would say is still on the spectrum of what I call like a shiny new toy on the innovation curve. So what I mean by that is ChatGPT as a business for you is not going to answer a specific FAQ question about your specific business. It's also not going to be able to complete an action based on your specific business operations. And so I think what's really interesting, and also my personal perspective is, I think long-term, net, I think the model providers and also the applications built on top of these models will get commoditized and competed away. I think long-term, what's most interesting and the most valuable asset in the market is actually the proprietary data that each business has that's specific to them, right? And so that's what's really exciting for me at Dashbot, and I think the whole team here is the mission of marrying very innovative technologies like large language models with this dark data that businesses are already sitting on and want to unlock, and essentially taking that data and training things like LLMs over them to then introduce innovative automatable use cases into these organizations. So I wanted to kind of paint context there. I think even before that, fundamentally, I actually think businesses need to take a data-first approach, right? You can take this dark data that you're sitting on, analyze it, ingest it, and actually find out insights today that can inform future automatable use cases and ways to actually deploy successful innovation in your organizations. So that's my quick take there.
That's super cool, Andrew. I just had that visual of the iceberg again, 90%. And the fact that organizations have this conversational data, it sounds very accurate. We need to think about it from a data-first approach, understand what's happening in that conversational data, get the insights, and then think about how you can automate for the future of your organization's success. So that's a great way said about how we think about digital and data and then automating for the future. Now, Paul, is there anything you'd like to add about what automation has to do with dark data?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Andrew. Agree with everything you said. I wanted to provide a different lens based on my experience on the ways we think about how you can unlock this dark data. And based on my experience, I've seen enterprises trying to do this through chatbots. I recently worked at Rasa, as I mentioned, which is one of the largest open source NLP platforms on earth. And I've really seen companies try to take a myriad of approaches through bot initiatives to try to get automation off the ground. And unfortunately, a lot of these approaches just never worked. And they really all hindered on methodology or specific principles such as intent-driven development. And I think a lot of folks in this audience are very familiar with what that means. The other one I found was CDD, or conversation-driven development, which is really something that might be new and not familiar to the audience, which is just taking conversations to inform you as a conversational designer how to build bots. And then there's this one that we came up with at Dashbot that really gets me super excited, and that's called data-driven development. And that really lends into our philosophy and methodology around data first, which is really taking a different approach from what the market has been doing today. And if you think about the way the market does things today, you have some sort of domain expertise. So therefore, you assume that based on that domain expertise, you're going to go build a chatbot as a conversational designer. And then through that experience, you're going to try to build out this initiative through digital transformation or customer experience, a journey that you perceive to be the best one for your end user, which is your customer. And then you figure out that through that, somehow or another, there's conversations that the bot can't handle, and therefore that continues to get escalated, and there's really no contextual awareness for the agent. And just things keep breaking, and there's no really meaningful impact that you can show based on whatever KPIs or measurement stuff you have today. Well, data first says that instead of doing it that way, let's try something new. Let's try something fresh. Let's introduce to the world this approach, which allows you to truly look at this unstructured data, whether it be from your customers that are on SMS or voice or bot transcripts or et cetera, through an omni-channel approach, a real visual insight into what they're really saying. And again, if you think about this economy, most companies now are going to live and die by how they answer this, how they solve for this, how they address this. And if the challenge still today is understanding as a conversational designer how to improve my NLP model by understanding those insights, this can help you. If my business and job as a product owner is to productize this in a way that produces some sort of meaningful impact, understanding these types of insights from this unstructured data can help you. And if I take it a step further and you really think about what is the day-to-day or larger impact on you as a business, well, it's pretty safe to say we all watch the news. You may not be in business. You may have your job on the line. There's some real significant impacts out there that we see all the time happening because companies just don't get this right. And I think based on my experience, you know, when I talk about this top to funnel approach, whether you're a conversational designer building chatbots or the person on the back end, because that chatbot can't contain that conversation, so therefore that has to be escalated to an agent, think about the human element to this. If the agent continues to not have contextual awareness or insight into the specific conversation that that customer is trying to resolve or have, or provide an awesome experience along that journey, more often than not, that customer is going to not only provide some negative feedback, which impacts your CSAT score, that also agent is going to have a lot of pissed off people. They're going to probably quit. The contact center director or the person that's responsible for these employees, which tend to be in the hundreds or tens of thousands, will also not be able to impact the culture. So you have a churn problem, you have a retention problem, you have a training problem. For the person that's responsible for improving to make those conversations more automatable, so the agents can focus on more impactful conversations that drive some sort of type of outcome, then you're not able to do that because you're just not driving the right, you don't have the right data or insights from that data or visibility into that data to design a bot that can help automate a lot of those conversations for the agents. So it's a cyclical effect from top to bottom. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a real impact on revenue. We're talking about a real impact on customers churning and leaving. We're talking about a real impact on your employees quitting. We're talking about a real impact on the projects that a lot of y'all might be working on today that just don't have an impact, that get shelved because there's no way to define what those KPIs or measure what that success is, no matter what industry you're in. And those are just some of the cyclical things as an impact if you can get the valuable insight into understanding what that data means to you and your business, no matter what your role. And I think everyone in the audience has seen this. I think everyone in the audience can feel that. And I think everyone in the audience has seen in the news how when companies don't get this right, companies shut doors. They're laying off tens of thousands of people. And that's where we are today. And I think Dashbot, which gets me really excited, can help everyone in that audience right now.
Wow, thank you, Paul. I just got so excited. I have chills because what I'm hearing from you is it's no longer good enough just to deploy a bot, right? It's no longer just good enough to just go off of assumptions and build something that's digital. We now are at that point where we're able to get these three things. What I'm hearing from you is the context. We need it to be relevant and personalized. As a brand for a company, both on the internal employee retention side, and of course, to have that authentic relationship with our customers and clients. So, and at the end of the day, it all turns to the revenue aspect of it, right? It's this untapped source of data that can be unlocking so many different opportunities for automation and beyond. So thank you, Andrew and Paul. We'll take it to the next step in our webinar, which is actually a chance for us to hear from you all. So we will have a poll ready for you. We hope you're enjoying your time with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you could unlock 5 new insights from dark data, which channels would you use? It could be your SMS data, your bot data, contact center data, all of the above. It could even be something that we don't have here, right? It could be social media data. Please drop it in the chat. It could be all of the above. There may be some things, some data sources and channels that you would prioritize, but if you could unlock 5 new insights around your top customer frustrations, where would you like to get that insight from? So we'll give it another few seconds here. And Eric, could you please launch the results? All right. Thank you for participating. We've got bot data and contact center data as the top sources that you'd like to unlock those 5 new insights from. We've got 30% all of the above, and some for SMS data. I also hear in the chat, I would like to unlock support tickets and email data. That's interesting. And then also Twitter, other social media data. Yeah, what do you think, Andrew and Paul? Is that interesting to you around the data source priorities to unlock insights?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Just wanted to answer some of these questions. I think Yoad, I apologize if I pronounce incorrectly, said, are you content or sector agnostic regarding your insight capabilities? Yes. Content, I assume you mean content within the conversational data. If that's the case, yes, we are sector agnostic. I think Andrej's interest in unlocking support tickets and email data, we're seeing an increasing amount of interest from enterprises in that field, right? Including ourselves. I think that's a big one. And what's interesting is it is really unstructured, especially email data. I think people don't realize how big of a hurdle it is to actually cleanse that data and pull out insights. Like, for example, scraping out things like your signature block or like pieces like a disclaimer. It's a lot of noise in there. So that makes total sense. Same thing with social media data. We're seeing a lot there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for addressing that, Andrew. So now that we've heard from you around all the different data sources for conversational data that you'd like to get some more insight on, we'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this next question. What inspired the magic window? We're all here today because the title of the webinar was Unlock Insights with a Window for your conversational data. So Paul, can you share a little bit more about what inspired the magic window?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. This is really exciting. I can't even express beyond this video how excited I am to kind of share this piece for the audience. And what we really understood as a company is that the market was really crying out for a solution or a better approach to surface insights in a meaningful way for enterprises to truly understand what their customers were saying in specific conversation flows. And if the goal was to understand unstructured data across an omni-channel approach, Dashbot could provide a window, a solution, not a tool, to surface cross-channel insights and provide analytics from a variety of data sources like SMS, voice, a variety of the sources that we addressed in the questions. So enterprises can start to fully automate and do much more. And that's what's the exciting part, is we have a solution out there for you in the audience, for you, to help you in a way that offers not only a different type of approach, but a meaningful way for you to have an impact, for your projects to have an impact, and for you to get a better understanding and visibility into this type of unstructured data, especially from your customers.
Thank you, Paul. So we actually have a special announcement for everyone here who's attended, and Paul will share what the announcement is. Paul, can you tell us a little bit more about what we have here today?
Yeah, for sure. So essentially, we understand conversational data is hard to understand, and we get it. But what I want to say to you in the audience is we look forward to partnering with you, and we have an offer. For the first 10 users, you can do a one-on-one data discovery with an expert to really understand if we, Dashbot, can surface insights or unlock your data, and we'll do this for free. This expert, which is myself, will share what types of insights can be surfaced based on your industry use case or use cases. For example, it could be chatbot data, voice, some of the other things that y'all mentioned in the questions and answers sections when Andrew was answering those. Whatever that is, we want to take this up and provide an opportunity for you to schedule a meeting with me for 30 minutes for the next 2 weeks to see if there's something that we can unlock for you through this magic window.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, we're so excited to share this announcement with you all. We understand that conversational data is very tricky to unlock those insights for. So please take us up on this offer for the first 10 people who book a 30-minute time slot with Paul here. He's going to drop the booking calendar in the chat, and we'll get to understand what's actually in your conversational data. So please set up the meetings, because this is for the first 10 people exclusively, and we're excited to hear more about your journey here. We got some questions, and which is perfect timing because it's Q&A. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. Let's check the Q&A box. Give me 1 second. Okay, it seems like we addressed Baron's question. So thank you for asking. We also have another question in the chat. Can you share more insights of why you think the intent building approach is not effective? I might be misunderstanding, so would love to get some clarity. I think it's more around expanding across intents. Andrew, Paul, would you like to take on this question on clarifying what we meant around intent building versus conversational development versus data-driven development?
I can start high level, Paul, and you could dive deeper. I think you have more expertise here. Yeah, this is from Lulia. Great question. I would say very succinctly at a high level, and offline, we could definitely dive deeper, is if you look at this paradigm of what Paul said of IDD, intent-driven development, and I think this is the status quo for most enterprises deploying enterprise-grade bots, is you make a lot of assumptions. So you create an intent and training phrases based on assumptions of what customers or users might say and associate intents, and you build flows based on assumptions. This approach of a CDD or DDD approach is taking actual historic conversations and data to actually inform what customers have said and the actual conversational flows to map out the model. So that's at a high level, the distinction, and just some more clarity there.
Yeah, I would just add, based on my experience, I've seen everyone try everything, with the latter DDD not being the one that's been tried yet, since that's a kind of a newer acronym we just introduced. I think I've seen from RASA folks switch from intent-driven development to conversation-driven development for a variety of reasons. And I think depending upon where you sit and based on kind of, for lack of a better word, how you were raised in the NLU space, it really is dependent upon kind of how you built out that bot and that experience for your end users. And so my thought process is more around saying that, you know, IDD is good depending upon what your use case or use cases might be. But at the same time, it also does have some sort of cumbersome effect, and it's hindersome as well to use, which is, you know, why RASA came out with conversation-driven development, which was a better way to inform you as a conversation designer to take conversations that are historic and context to inform you of how to build out some of those intents, or through that bot, based on enhancing your domain expertise. And that's kind of where I was coming from, which is kind of to say, hey, there's a variety of methods out there, and one or the other at this point doesn't seem to solve it, but they're not going to go away. We're not saying that you can't or will not be using that same thing that I think Andrew referenced with the Chat GPT-3. It's a nice shiny toy, but it's not going to help you solve a lot of problems that you have today or challenges with your program. And so that's why we introduced this different approach, DDD or data first approach, to really provide another layer that we feel might be an easier approach. So if you're using CDD or IDD, it might make your life more easier because you have some insight now and context into how to build out a bot that will help influence you and those programs to make that bot or those initiatives or that project a little bit more effective.
Thank you, Paul. We've got a few more questions coming in. Wow, lots of activity here, but we do want to be mindful of time. We like to keep these short and sweet. So if we don't get to your question today, we will reach out to you. We should be able to contact you through the email that you signed up with. So we'll capture the question if we did not get to you. So we'll close out with one last question. Andrej has asked, what is a way that dark data can be added to Dashbot? And can you demo the experience in exploring the dark data? Andrew, could you close us off with answering this question around the way that dark data can be added and if we can demo it one day?
Yeah, great question. So any conversational data we can ingest into our platform. So we integrate with every single conversational platform out there. Even if you have raw conversational data just sitting in a data lake, as long as it's, for example, like a transcript that has text, user ID, some kind of timestamp, we'll ingest that, cleanse it for you. You don't have to worry about that. So any type of conversational data, we can just ingest it. And in terms of demo, yes, absolutely. I would speak to Paul, and he can begin you on that journey.
Amazing. So any type of conversational data, that's incredible. And I'm sure Paul is the one to be able to show you that. Once you book a 30-minute call with him, he's the guy to show you that magic window. So we'll close out now. We'll get to your questions personally after the session. And we just want to thank you all so much for being here from the entire Dashbot team. So thank you so much for coming. We will send the recording to you as soon as this is over. And again, Paul will drop his calendar link in the chat. And we're really excited to hear more about what your journey has been around conversational data and understanding your customers through that iceberg visual. So with that, we'll close out this webinar. Thank you so much. And until next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.